of I Am the Data podcast. And my guest, basically my host, is actually my co host, Jeannie Muhammad. She's going to explain to who she is. We're going to get the ball rolling.
Okay, I am Jeannie Muhammad, your global happiness expert. Always happy to be here with our my co-host Nathaniel Evans. He's always challenging me to think, and I just love it. So let's get right into the topic. And I want him to explain exactly what went into him deciding to choose this topic today.
Yeah, so the topic today is leadership in the midst of change. Right now we're going through some really changing times right now. And we're trying to tap in to actually be the best leaders that we actually can be in the world, to ourselves, to our families, our communities. A lot of us are taking on different paths and different journeys. Some of them are brand new to us, so at times they are scary. They have their little hiccups, pertaining to who we are. And this topic is actually to explore the fact that we have to go through changes in order to get to our different levels of leadership. Some things that we have to remove from off the table, that we have certain realities that we believe makes us, we're going to have to shift those realities. Perceptions that's actually been basically instilled in us or basically forced upon us by friends, families, and even our past endeavors. We're going to have to release some of those things to find what our leadership is. And then another point I want to make is that going through your new level of leadership, we cannot be so accessible. Like so many different people and situations cannot have access to our energy because it stops us from actually moving forward. It may seem good to connect with all these friends and families and new ventures that's actually coming out, but if they're not in direct alignment with who you are and the direction that you're actually seeking to go in or actually being propelled into, it's going to hinder your movements as a leader. And this is
Okay.
the reason why I actually focus on this topic because we are in a space of change. People are talking about many things right now as far as change, the politics that surround us, the laws that's taking place in our communities, the evidence of what those laws actually consist of when you're looking at Roe versus Wade, the abortion rights for women. We're looking at the Constitution from the 13th Amendment to the 14th Amendment. And how do these things affect our leadership to bring forth change, not only in our lives, but in the perceptions that actually have taken hold over us?
Okay. All right. As you were speaking, and I want to say this to our audience, and I want to welcome whoever is listening to us today or watching us today, and welcome you to this discussion. And if you have anything to offer, please feel free to offer any comments that we you may have, because we appreciate that. And I want to say this about this discussion today and my having it with Nathaniel. One of the greatest, and I thank him for sharing his platform with me. And as a leader, in him speaking about change, one of the great things about Nathaniel is when he comes on and we're having this conversation, it really is a conversation among friends, and it really is an exchange of ideas, and I really appreciate that. It's like calling up a good friend and introducing a topic and discussing it. And when I hear him talk about change as a leader, I and leadership, in your business or leadership in your personal life, I think about, yes, we are surrounded by all of these different things that are happening in the world, and we're engaging in different conversations with different people that have different ideas about what's going on in the world. And as a leader, I was thinking about how important it is to know yourself and know your core values. Know your core, even with all the change that's going on, that does not mean that your core values, the things that you know to be moral and righteous and good, that does not change. You
Mm,
know, you may become flexible in how you adapt to what's going on around you. But as a leader, and if you truly are a leader in your personal life, because it always starts with self, you're leading yourself. Do you know your core values? Do you
mm,
know truly what you believe and that you stand on those beliefs and that your foundation is built strongly on those beliefs? So when all of these things are happening around you, you already pretty much know what will align with your code your core values. And
mm,
once you know that, you can go into conversations with anyone and be flexible and be willing to listen to what they have to say. But that does not mean that it's going to change what you basically know to be right and righteous.
mm. That's a great point. Because core values are really essential, as development leader. But I also want to ask you this question as far as being a leader. Let's say, you have core values in your leadership in 2022. Will those core values change in 2023 or 2024? Or are those core values cemented?
Well, if you know yourself, Nathan, and this is what I believe, this is my own personal belief, and anyone, uh, we all have freedom,
Okay.
the freedom to live and the freedom to express our opinions. My belief is that if you truly know yourself and if you truly have examined all aspects of uh, your life, if you look at all your experiences from your life and what you have learned from your life, then your core values are pretty much set.
Hmm.
One of my core values, and the one that I base my life on, is that I do unto others what I would have done unto me. I live my life on the principle of allowing other people to live their lives and not judging them according to what I may perceive to be right. I'm living my life. I'm living according to what I feel that my creator would want me to live. I can
Okay.
express that to you, and I can tell you what I believe. And if it sparks something in you that you say, maybe I should look at that. Maybe I have been thinking wrong or whatever. Let me look at that, which is what I'm going to do with whatever you bring to me. When you bring it to me, I'm not going to just dismiss it out of hand.
Okay.
I'll look at it. I'll
Okay.
look at it. But what I believe that my basic core value of doing unto others as I would have done unto me, 2023, 2024, 2025, 2026, something major would have to happen to shake me from that.
Got you. Yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. Because I only said that because I know from my past discussions that we as people, as leaders, we change. Our lives constantly is evolving. It's constantly shifting us into new, basically I would say plateaus to bring forth deeper and more enriched levels of awareness. And the core value, as far as do unto people as you want people to do unto you, is actually a foundational structure. It's really hard for that to actually shift unless you're using it as far as like as a demeaning aspect, right? If you're doing it as a righteous, element in your life, then it's hard for you to actually shift out of that. So I believe that
and
is a
and
core
I
core
wouldn't
value.
want to shift out of that. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
want to shift out of that. You know, now when it comes being flexible
Okay,
as a leader and change, because the world is changing every day, you know, and in order to truly live in this world, we have to be flexible, you
that's
know,
correct. That's
and
correct.
we have to sometimes adapt the things that we do as leaders to what's happening, such as technology. Now we know technology, what we did 20 years ago, is
That's right. It's totally changed, right? And we dealing in a digitized world now, and you have a lot of leaders that actually work from old platforms or old train of thoughts or old concepts
right,
where they might not be willing to adapt to new technology. They might not be able to adapt to the new iPhones or new Android phones or the new platforms that actually is out there to increase your business or to increase your awareness. So, with certain things that we may have into place, we have to be willing to basically evolve past some of the minute things that we was actually doing to experience life on a different level. But core
right.
values are essential in this time. They are important, and in some ways, they actually can actually protect your life. Like you might have a core value as far as like minding your own business, right?
Yes, and
And
that's a good one right there.
yeah, yeah, because in this today's society, it's you wanna basically say things to people. You wanna be able to bring enlightenment to things that you see in society, but you gotta ask at what cost do you want to do that. For
Yeah.
example, I was on a train 2 weeks ago, and I was with my daughter. She's 12 years old, and I was sitting next to a woman, a black woman, and across from her was her son. And her son was leaning forward with his phone, playing his game, whatever he was doing. And she said to him, move back, right? Because if somebody bump into you, I will bump into prison.
Ooh.
So I'm just sitting there because my daughter's my daughter's sitting right next to me. So I'm like, I looked at her and I said, Miss, I said, don't say things like that, Miss. And she looked at me and said, well, I've been to prison before. And I said, yeah, kid, I understand you've been in prison before, but that's not something to being enlightened about. That's not something that you want to project on to your son. Your son is like 13, 14 years old. You don't want to project on him that if somebody bump into him, that he should bump into prison, right?
Right.
You don't want that element in your life or in the life of your son.
Right.
And she had a very negative response towards me saying something to her about that situation. And my daughter, she was perplexed because she was saying, why would she be talking about prison in front of her son? And my daughter reminded me that when she was in charter school, they had a book about life that I was reading to my daughter, and it was talking about what a tree makes. A tree makes houses, it makes furniture, and
Mm-hmm.
then turned around and said the tree makes prisons. And me and my
That's
daughter
what the
looked at,
book said.
yeah, it was a child book, yeah, yeah. And I was like, what? What the tree make? So I had to go to the school and talk to them about this book and say, who approved this book to be in the school for me to read to my daughter and introduce prison to her? So my daughter was like, that's just like the book that we read about talking about prison. She did the same thing to her son, the same that that book tried to introduce me to prison at a very young age.
Wow, that is interesting that you would be reading a book about trees and it would introduce that, but that's subtle. See, that's
Yeah,
a subtle way of introducing that to your child. And if you were not really aware of what's going on, then that could you could have just overlooked that and thought nothing of it, which is what happens a lot of times. And that's why
yeah,
I was saying earlier that as leaders, and you're talking about the change that is going on, and I'm looking at what's going on in our schools, the
that's
the
right.
the the things that are going on in our schools, and the things that they are being allowed to teach, and the things that they are not being allowed to teach.
They're
It's
not
all
talking about the Most
programming.
High. They're not talking about the Most High. They're not talking about the natural elements of life. As far as natural foods, resources, herbs, and things of that nature to cure diseases, and things of that nature. They're talking about medicine for headaches and mental health developments and things of that nature. They talking about them, they, and the LGBTQ and the Black Lives Matter movements and things of that nature, which actually removes a lot of us from the society that we actually currently living in. Right, we're taking on creating new societies without actually benefit from the society that we actually have. And go back to the lady, she was very adverse to what I was saying to her. She believed that, taking on a notion of incarceration was a beautiful thing, right? And it was so profound to her that she was able to introduce it righteously to her son.
Yes, yes.
Right?
And the point you were making about you have to be careful what you say to people.
Yeah,
But
because she looked at me and she jumped up and said, "Son, come here," you know, and they both stood up and went all the way to the door so she could stay away from my energy. She could stay away from
oh,
from what I was saying to her. Because I stopped
whoa.
talking to her, but what I said to her still resonated to her because she was still sitting next to me. So she said, you know what, I don't want this to resonate on me no more. Let me jump up and move my son away from his teaching because I want my son to believe that prison is a part of his structure in life.
Wow. That is pretty deep, Nathaniel, because when we and first of all, what was he playing on his phone? What was on his phone? It may be because a lot of times the games and the programs that are on TV and how all of that will romanticize the different negative aspects of our life. So now we're talking about leadership in the midst of change.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you look back a few years ago, we can even look back just what 15 years ago. There was a big difference in what was overtly said and what was overtly done. Now,
Mm-hmm.
covertly, all of it was still there.
That's right.
But now it's all out in the open. And because it is all out in the open, people don't want to be in an atmosphere that is positive. A lot of people, I shouldn't say all people, a lot of people do
Mm-hmm.
not want to be in that atmosphere. When you look at the things that are happening, I was listening to the news the other day, and some man, I think it was in Subway, shot the person because of, I think they put mayonnaise on his sandwich.
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah. He
Now,
didn't get the
how
right he didn't get the right condiments, for his meal. And after further investigation, the economist that he looked for, he had hundreds of those things in his household already because he was actually saving them as a hoarder.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So he didn't even need it because when he went home, it was right there. It's accessible to him already. But it was a fact that he didn't receive it. He didn't receive something he believed he's supposed to receive, that he turned around and harmed somebody else's life.
Now, how sick is that?
That's
How sick
correct.
is that? And so now we're dealing with leadership and having to assess the changes that are around us. And when do we speak?
Yeah.
When do we speak to someone?
When do we speak? Because right now, like I done been on advocacy movement, closed Rikers Island campaigns, and things of that nature. And being an advocate, that's something that's dear to me. So if I hear somebody speaks about prison and an enlightening aspect, I'm automatically in my spirit seek to challenge it, right?
Right.
But instead of her jumping up and moving, she could have just cut me, or she could have punched me in my face and told me mind my business,
That's
right?
right.
Right? Because the way that she responded, what I'm saying, to my suggestion, what I'm saying, told me that her son may be in danger of her. She may be the cause of his danger, what I'm saying, coming in life in the future. Because she's so susceptible to this way of life that to him it doesn't mean anything to go to prison because he's going to get bailed out, he's going to get commissary, people are going to come and visit him. So, and my mother been in prison before too, so this is a natural ordinance for our lives. This is a generational thing
Wow.
for us to actually experience.
Wow. And that is sad, but it's so true in that if you uh, trace the history of most people, it is a generational thing.
That's right.
It is
That's right.
generational. And sometimes we have to be the one to break that cycle, which comes to being, if you're that person that breaks that cycle, what does it do with your relationships with people, your family,
That's
and
right.
all, when you're that leader that really actually brings about a change within the change?
What happens to you? I mean, even looking at some of our great leaders that was in the land, what happened to them that actually sought to break the monopoly, what I'm saying, of a certain systematic structure in our societies? What happened to these individuals? We may praise them on billboards, you may put them on stop signs, you may actually create statues of them. But I was even looking at something the other day where Martin Luther King, he said, I want to live a long life too, man. I want to be an old man in my 70s and my 80s. I want to experience the lives of my grandchildren, my children's children's children, and things of that nature. But that never happened for him,
No,
right? He was never
no.
able to experience that life, but we can experience his life. We can experience his life by celebrating his birthday and having a day off, by going to Martin Luther King Boulevard, by looking at statues of him, by listening to different sermons that he actually preached in the world, by reenacting him, by actually reading his books and seeking to follow his movements. But he's not here to live a long, you know, luxurious life, the way that we seek to live because of this change that we actually bringing in as leaders, right? Because leadership is not a simple thing in the world, even though people may seem that is a natural thing for people to want to bring forth change. It's actually not because the resistance that we actually have in the world. Even looking at Harriet Tubman and things of that nature, she was a leader, but a lot of people detest her movement even amongst her own group. They didn't want to have nothing to do with what she was doing. They was like,
Right.
I can't escape the master. If the master catch me, he's gonna castrate me. He's gonna punish me. He's gonna do these different things. Against me. You see what I'm saying? So we have to look at this and see if is it essential for us to change as leaders and what is the sacrifices that we're going to make, you know what I mean, to being leaders. Because earlier we talked about core values. Some core values you have will not coincide with the path that you're on. You're going to have to change some of those things. You're going to have to, you're a humble person. Yes, you could be a humble person, but you're going to have to be aware now of your surroundings and who comes in your midst. You could be humble, but you can't be a fool, right?
Right. And I just want to stop for a minute and acknowledge Farah here, because Farah is a true leader. And I don't know if you follow her, Nathaniel, on
I don't
LinkedIn.
know. Maybe.
Yes, but it's nice to see you, Farah, because I truly admire you as a leader, because, and we're talking about change in as far as leaders, and I'm always happy to see the fact that you have your core values set, and you have been through different things in your leadership, as far as coaching nurses and helping them to develop. And I am always honored to see and be in your presence. So thank you, Farah, for being here with us this afternoon, because I truly do admire you. I truly admire your leadership and the things that you, because you're consistent. You're
Mm,
consistent in your leadership, and you have shown yourself to be a great leader. So thank you for being here with us. And but what you were saying, Nathaniel, about being humble, and that's one of the things that as a leader, that sometimes it can be hard to be um humble,
yeah.
because we can get caught up in what we think we know. We can get caught up in the praise that may be coming our way. And if that's what we're doing, sometimes the things that we do, it is praise. Thank you, Farah. Thank you. Um, and if that is the case, because I'll use myself as an example. Um, when we go through change, and when we're going through change, we sometimes have to ask ourselves, why are we doing what we do?
Mm, yeah. That's right.
Why?
Is it
Why?
is it for you? Is it for others? You know, what is the purpose of actually bringing forth this change? Let's say your best friend, stop talking to you because you're going on this path. Would you stop your path? If your brother, your sister, your mother, your cousins start saying that you're not supposed to be doing this, or they don't like what you're doing, will you continue to do it? Right? If the organizations that you're working for does not acknowledge what you're supposed to be bringing forth, will you just stop completely, or will you create your own nonprofit, or will you create your own LLC? Right? Because this is what's happening to a lot of leaders when they go into systematic structures. A lot of them is getting stuffed out and they're being silenced. Right? So they have to understand that they may have to take about an about face to what direction they're going in, because they may not have the support that they actually need. You know what I'm saying? Within the structure that they're actually in. You can
And
outlive your purpose.
yes,
You can
and
outlive
will
your
you allow
purpose.
yourself to be silenced,
That's right.
Nathaniel? Will you allow yourself to have someone stuff your light? See that we
Mm,
can allow that. We may have to shift where we share what we're sharing. We may have to shift in that way, but will you allow yourself to be silenced when you know that you're standing on what is right?
yeah, like will you change who you are? Change is the only constant in life, and we have to continually adapt. Right? That's what I was saying earlier. You have core values. You may say I'm a peaceful person. right? But what happens when that peace is challenged? What happens if someone comes at you with a crowbar or something like that, right? Where does your peace lie? Does it mean that you're not supposed to respond to a situation because you're a peaceful person? No, it does not. It does not mean that. It means that you're still a peaceful person, but this act came against you. And even if you respond to this act, you should not change the notion that you're a peaceful person. You should not say because I had to respond in this manner to protect my life or even protect my congregation that I'm no longer a peaceful person. And don't allow anyone to make you think that you're no longer a peaceful person because you had to respond in a certain way.
I was looking at what Farrell was saying about sometimes change is uncomfortable, but there must be some growing pains sometimes. Right. There are growing pains, and
That's
there
right.
are going to be growing pains. And just as you were making the point, Nathaniel, that what you are basically is and your core values, sometimes you may have to come up out of that to deal with a certain situation. And I will always say about me, and I always use me because I know me better than I know anybody else. um I am a peaceful person, and I love peace. And my company is freedom to live, and
Freedom to
I
live.
believe you cannot have peace unless you do have freedom. But that does not mean I am a pushover. That
Mm,
does not mean that you can come at me a certain way and I won't respond, because I do value my peace, and I'm not going to allow anyone to come into my space that is not bringing peace, you
that's
know.
correct.
And sometimes the only kind of response that someone will recognize is when you come up out of what you are known as, and they see that other side of you, because we all have another side, you know. What you see of me every day, I am Jeannie Muhammad, your global happiness expert, and I am that. But on the other side of me, there is someone that you would not want to tamper with, you know.
Yeah, you know, you know, I always go back to the Bible because I'm so versed in it. But there was a passage in the Bible where it talked about the Hebrew Israelites and it talked about them following the Sabbath. They didn't do no work, they didn't buy anything on the Sabbath. They didn't engage in any like physical activities, or anything. And this notion came to their enemies that they don't do anything on the Sabbath. They don't even, because they don't do anything on the Sabbath. The Sabbath is a great day to attack them and destroy them. So what the enemies to do, they wait until the Sabbath to go into the Hebrew Israelite land and start killing them. And the Hebrew Israelites at that time would not defend themselves because they said they do not fight or do anything on the Sabbath. And after a couple of slaughters, one of the leaders said, man, we can no longer allow the opposition to take advantage of our core value that we don't do any work on the Sabbath. If they come into our land and fight us on the Sabbath, we must fight them on the Sabbath
Mm-hmm.
because we have
Mm-hmm.
sons and daughters and things of that nature that we have to protect, and we have legacies and generational legacies that we have to bring forth. And if we allow them to keep killing of our sons and our daughters, our mothers and fathers, we will not have no generation to speak about and no Sabbath to entail,
And
right?
see, right, right. And that goes back to what Farrell was saying about sometimes change is uncomfortable.
That's correct.
Yes.
That's
And I'm
correct.
sure that was uncomfortable for them, but in order to survive, and survival is the first law of nature, in order to survive, they had to make that change.
That's correct. And it's just a learning lesson for us to know what we have to do. Like even when you're looking at Cephalodollar Dollar right now, Cephalodollar Dollar is talking about telling people that he apologized for the way that he instructed them about tights. He was using tights for his own life, but tights are not used for that. Tights was used to help the people in case they come into danger. It was like a way of a storehouse. They put their money in the storehouse. They put they meat in the storehouse, their cattle and things in that in the storehouse. And if they ever run into a famine in the land, that money that's in the storehouse is to actually help them through that famine to
And you're
ensure
saying
that they will not be destroyed.
And you're saying it's not for the leaders to drive around in big fine Cadillacs and have their own private planes, that tithes are for the people, not for and you are a great one for quoting the Bible, because I remember a passage in the Bible where it says, will a man rob God? And
That's
how
correct.
will he rob God is through tithes and offerings.
That's
So
correct.
yeah, I totally agree with you. And when okay, we're gonna talk about leadership and change. Now, see, that's a change. And sometimes as leaders, we do have to change and be humble enough when we have erred, to be humble enough to admit as a leader that we have erred.
That's
And
correct.
that does take humility.
That
And
takes
as you
ability and that takes a strong sense, of character for that
right,
person to act, because if he would never take on the notion that he was basically off about tights, he could still live with those tights comfortably because people are going to still provide those tights because they believe that in a spiritual sense that they're giving that money to the Most High. They don't
right,
see themselves giving it to a man. They actually believe within their hearts of hearts and their spirit that they're giving this, right, to the Most High. That this is a form of praising the Most High and giving homage to the Most High. But this man is not using the money for the Most High.
okay, right. And one beautiful thing about that, Nathaniel, is I feel what is in your heart as a leader, that is what we are judged on, is our intent. Now, if I am my intention towards you is pure as a leader, and my intention is to not harm you but help you, that's what I see people, people that give their tithes, people that, give their money to these leaders, their intentions are pure.
That's correct.
And that's what they're judged on. Now the leader, if the leader is not doing what they're supposed to do, that's what they're going to be judged on.
Yeah, that's based on them. Basically, what Farah said, change the only constant in life, and we have to continually adapt to it, right? So, as leaders, we must know that we have to adapt. Not that we want to adapt, but we have to adapt. You know what I'm saying? Because we're going to be faced with so many different challenges that's going to actually challenge who we are as individuals, who we say we are, what stance that we say that we stand on. Those things are actually going to always be at the forefront of opposition, right? To ensure that we are who we say we are, that we're going to do what we say that we're going to do, right? It's going to be a challenge. If you say you want to be a farmer, you got to learn every tool that a farmer uses. You got to learn about multiple plants. You got to learn about the nature of a seed and what it does and what climate you can grow in and what climate you can't. You got to know about weeds and what power the weeds has and how the weeds destroy your crop. You got to learn about fending off animals and certain insects and buying pesticides and things of that nature if you say you want to be a farmer, right? It's not just going to come out of
Right,
thin air, right? And you're going to have to
right,
adapt. It's like going to a different climate. You're gonna have to change how you farm in this climate as opposed to that climate because every climate is gonna be different. It's gonna have bring forth different, beautifications in the world, right? For
right,
you to connect with. So when
right.
we say that we're this or we say that we're that, society has a way of challenging us, of putting us, I would say, on a hot seat. Placing
Yes,
us right there. Let's see how long it's gonna take for you to jump and say, I'm hot. It's too hot in here. I can't take it here anymore. Right?
Yes.
It's,
And you know, and also when you talk about that, see, I can have a conversation with you on one level, Nathaniel, but I may not be able to talk with, just like that lady that you said that you met on the train. See, you cannot have the same conversation with her that you have with me, because, and that as a leader sometimes is where that uh we have to adapt.
that's right.
We have to adapt. Because, and I have said this before. Sometimes you're talking to a baby, and a baby may not be able to chew the coarse meat that
That's
you
right.
are given to that baby. You have to give that baby soft food
Mm,
in order for them to be able to accept what you're saying. So sometimes as leaders, we may be up here in our understanding, but in order to communicate with other people, we may have to soften or speak what we say in a different tone, a different, way, in order to be able to try to help them to grow.
yeah, you want to try to reach them. The only reason to bring forth wisdom is to reach other people. But in this society, people are offended by correction. The Most High says, if you correct a righteous man, he shall love you. But if you correct a wicked man, he shall hate you. Right? So you need to know about who you are trying to correct or instill good in this world, so you can benefit from the good that this world was created for. It wasn't created for people to do evil, to do atrocities, to manipulate, to misuse, mislead, or even to destroy. This world was created in harmony and in goodness, right? The sun,
Right,
the moon, the stars, the oxygen, the air, those all a testament that of the beauty of life. You can have
right,
anything else you want to, but those things are the testament that the Most High made this world for beauty and for the sake of beauty and for the sake of love. And
right,
our constitution with this life is to continue that development that the Most High created, and not to come forth and destroy it and to eradicate it. People right now
right,
talk about the climate change and things of that nature. Why? Because they're destroying the earth. They're destroying the air that we breathe. They're destroying the power of the moon, the power of the sun, and things of that nature by not taking the beauty of the world into the development processes.
right, right. And that is speaking right into what I always strive to do, Nathaniel, is to be on that higher vibrational level and come out of love, because I do truly love humanity. And because I love humanity, I strive to say things that will lift people and not, uh, put my foot on their neck.
That's correct.
And sometimes that does take being, as a leader, being humble enough to listen to what other people have to say, even though sometimes they may be talking crazy, or what I
That's right.
perceive to be crazy.
I mean, they may be talking from their logical standpoint
Right,
or basically what happened to them in life. Right? You might come to somebody and say, a mother is supposed to always love her children, right? But then you might talk to a woman who mother harmed her, right? And harmed her in a severe way. So that logic, it may not coincide with her until she basically become a mother herself. If she's not a mother, she may not be able to adapt to that reality because she's still going up the premise of the mother that she had in the world. But when she become a mother, she would say a mother's supposed to love her children, and she'll go on the basis that she wasn't loved the way that she's supposed to be loved, and she instill that love into her children moving forward, right?
and right, and that's, I was talking to you about the teachings of L. Ron Hubbard, and in the becoming a Dianetics auditor. one of the things that we were taught is never to invalidate someone else's data, you know, because what, you say, well, no, I'm not supposed to love this or love that or whatever. Now, for me to come back and invalidate your data because you're coming out of your experiences,
That's correct. That's
you
correct.
know, you're coming out of that. And so my uh duty is to listen. You know, I can listen. I can ask questions from someone as a leader that is striving to elevate. You know, I may not agree with that, and my experiences say, no, that's not right. But if I am a leader that is striving to make a positive change, then I have to listen to what you are saying.
Yeah, the different realities of the world. It's not just your reality of the world. There are multiple millions of different realities and perceptions that actually come out of this one world that we all live in, that we all share together, right? So you may have a profound notion about what a thing is supposed to be or how a thing is supposed to take place, but there are other realities, that you have never experienced before, that you have never went through, right? You may talk about the human condition, but have you experienced harsh human conditions? You may think homelessness is a harshness for human conditions, but there are deeper conditions that men and women have to experience in life that surpasses homelessness 100 times over.
And so when that's saying a person's uh perception is their reality, and understanding that as a leader, and knowing that the basic, I mean, the highest vibrational level that anyone can be on is to operate out of love. So if I'm operating out of love and you have a different perception than I have, then if I'm to love you, then not to put my foot on your neck and just crush you and say, no, you have to agree with what I'm saying. Is it my responsibility to demonstrate love?
Mm.
Is it my responsibility to demonstrate love? How do I demonstrate love as a leader for someone that is totally, to me, maybe totally off the wall? How do I demonstrate that? Do I continue to love them or do I slap them down?
You got to continue to love them because this is your test. This is where you become strengthened to be able to deal with the different manifestations of the world that's actually going to come and challenge that love that you say that you here to bring forth, right? The Most High loved the world. He create things for the world, but the world destroys them. But does he say, you know what, I'm gonna take back the moon? But they don't appreciate the moon, man. I'm gonna take back the sun because they're not acknowledging the power of the sun and what the sun is. They saying take medication to heal, but my sun heals all things. They're not acknowledging. Let me take back the sun, or let me take back the potency of what the sun produces in the world. I'm gonna actually give them less rays than they actually used to, right? He doesn't do those things. Let me take back the oxygen so they only can breathe at a certain time in a day, right? He doesn't do those things. So the Most High love is always challenged in the world, and our love is also going to be challenged in the world as well.
And you are so, 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 so right. Um, and again, I come back to me, and when I say I'm a global happiness expert, my happiness is challenged every day. And in order to uh, maintain where I am, I have to do exactly what you said. I have to say, okay, if I am going to be operating on this higher vibrational level, I cannot allow myself to be pulled into negativity. The Most High could allow and say, I mean, just he could destroy And that us in a twinkling of he could destroy everything because it's not appreciated. That's where gratitude comes in.
Yes, it
That's
is.
another thing.
That great gratitude, man. I was dreaming last night, and I dreamed about a passage that I read, and it was talking about Christ. And Christ was a healer. They said he was a healer. And I remember this passage where he was walking a crowd of people, and a woman touched his garment. But he's a healer, right? But he turned around and said, "Who touched me?" Right? He wanted to know who touched him, right? Because she took a certain energy from him and it healed her. But he wanted to know who this person was. So he
Right.
turned around and said, "Who touched me?" And she was like, "It's me." And he said, "Because you have faith that just by touching my garment, you're going to be healed, what you have requested will be done unto you."
Wow,
Right?
that's powerful.
See, this is powerful. This is powerful. But he still had to know who touched him. He didn't just
Right.
say, "Oh, I was touched." He wanted to know who was this person that had this faith, right? That had this love in their heart for him to know that he could heal them, that would actually reach out and say, "I'll be healed just by touching his garment." Who was this person?
So, this topic, leadership in the midst of change. So, in order to be a powerful leader in the midst of the change that's going on in the world today, the chaos, the different views that are coming, as you said in the beginning about Roe versus Wade, the Second Amendment rights as far as guns, the 13th, 14th Amendment, all of that can go back to dealing with all of this change by pulling up on our faith, by pulling up on our core beliefs, by pulling up on understanding that yes, we have to change and be flexible in our changing, but there are certain things that are non-negotiable.
That's right.
There are
That's right.
certain things that when it comes to our core values, our faith, our belief, the things that give us the power that we have as individuals, because I always talk about the power that we all have.
That's right.
And when we look at all the changes that are happening in the world today, and we look at the chaos that's going on around us today, we have to, or we must, know and pull up on the power that we have within and not let all of these distractions, all of the chaos that's happening around us take away from what we know we have to do as leaders
That's
in
right.
order to spread the power, the harmony, the peace, uh that we know that we
Resides within
deserve.
us. That's
Yes.
correct. Yeah, because you hit the nail on the coffin, man. That's what it's about. You know, leadership in the midst of change is actually adhering to your core power that exists within you, a power that was actually given to you. You may think that you work for it, but it was actually provided to you because of the things that you are doing in the world, what you perceive that you want to do in the world, right? So this lessons, these gifts have been given to you, and you have to protect those gifts the same way you protect your house, your car, your finances. You have to protect these same gifts that have been given to you, and you cannot allow them to be extracted from you for no reason or any purpose, even from your own flesh. Like Paul said, "I do the things that I'm not supposed to do. My flesh wars against my spirit," right? So we have to understand that there is a battle for our gifts to be seduced in the world. We have to understand that our gifts can be extracted from us, but we do not understand the power of what those gifts are and how to hold on to those gifts that we have in the midst of change that's taking place around us all day and every day. From our inner circles to our outer circles. Who we are, what we represent, will be challenged. There's no easy way around it. And we have to be able to instill and empower those gifts the best ways we know how. Walk into the mountains, sing songs, meditate, prayer, talk to loving friends, talk to the animals, whatever you need to do to instill your gifts. You is your purpose to do that because those gifts have been given to you for your purpose.
That's so true. And what you said about sometimes just taking a still moment, all the things that are going on around us, all the chaos, all the distractions that would take away from our power within, all of this that's going around among us. Sometimes we just have to take that moment of stillness, take that moment, whether it's in prayer, meditation, as you said, you may want to just take a walk. Sometimes I just take a walk in my backyard and just take some deep breaths and just say thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. And be grateful for where I am now. Be grateful for what I have now.
nah, that's right.
Be grateful and take that moment to focus on that gratitude and focus on the power that I have been given. You
That's
have been given. All of us have been given it, freely given. We just have to activate it.
That's it, and that's your leadership. With that, we're gonna close out. Gene is gonna bring us to a whole nother plane. We want to know that our leadership is a gift. Is a purpose for us. And if we have been given these different gifts, to not misuse those gifts, because if we do, we're gonna actually wind up like several dollar. We're gonna have to apologize for misusing those gifts and misusing people, what I mean, through the power of those gifts that we have. And hopefully that we can be as humble as Seflo Dollar has been, what I mean, in his new development in life to, apologize, not only to ourselves, but also to the universe for us misusing it for our own purpose and misusing the gifts that was given to us out of love.
Thank you. Okay, let's go into a different place. We're going to close our eyes. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Let it out slow. Take a deep breath and let it out slow. You're walking towards a door. You open the door up. Open the door. In front of you is a beach with white sand. You walk out on the sand in your bare feet. You can feel yourself relaxing as you look out on the water. Blue, blue, blue water. So blue it actually reflects the sun. You can see the sun shining on the water as you walk out, and the waves are so beautiful. You find yourself just relaxing from the top of your head down through your neck, your arms, your fingers, on down your legs, your toes that are in the sand. You feel yourself relaxing. You can hear the birds singing. The water is so peaceful, so peaceful. You are totally relaxed. When I count to 5 backwards, you will take a deep breath and open your eyes. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Open your eyes. Slowly open your eyes. Take a deep breath and let it out slowly. Enjoy your time on the beach with the sun shining and have a great week.
Good day, everyone.
Peace.